The evening air along the harbor was soft and warm. Robert Ashford stood on the marble terrace of the yacht club, champagne glass in hand, surrounded by the pleasant murmur of his guests. At 58, he built an empire in commercial real estate, and tonight's gathering was meant to celebrate his latest acquisition, a waterfront development worth $40 million. The party sparkled around him. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. A yacht bobbed gently in the harbor behind them, its deck lights twinkling like scattered stars. Robert adjusted his bow tie and smiled at a colleague's joke, though his mind was already drifting toward his next business conquest. That's when he noticed the boy. The child couldn't have been more than 12 years old, standing at the edge of the terrace near Robert's prized Ferrari. The red sports car gleamed under the lights, its hood now raised, releasing a thin stream of steam into the night air. The boy wore dress pants that were slightly too short, and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, both showing signs of careful washing and wear. His sneakers were scuffed but clean. Robert excused himself from his conversation and walked toward the scene, his polished shoes clicking against the marble. Several guests had already noticed and were whispering among themselves. "What's going on here?" Robert's voice carried across the terrace, louder than he'd intended. The boy looked up. He had warm brown eyes and an afro that caught the chandelier light. In his hands he held a small toolkit, the kind you might find in a household drawer, nothing fancy. "Your car was overheating, sir," the boy said quietly. "I heard it making a noise when you parked earlier. I thought I could help." Robert felt the eyes of his guests upon him. Someone chuckled. The sound irritated him more than it should have. "You thought you could help?" Robert repeated, his tone dripping with disbelief. He gestured broadly at the Ferrari. "This is a $500,000 automobile. What makes you think a kid like you could possibly know anything about it?" The boy's shoulders drew back slightly, but he didn't look away. "My dad taught me about engines before he passed. I've been helping at Mr. Chen's garage after school. I know it's a nice car, sir, but engines work pretty much the same way, and—" "Engines work the same way," Robert interrupted, and a few guests laughed. The sound emboldened him. "That's precious. Really?" He stepped closer, looking down at the boy. "Tell you what. I'll make you a deal. A real American dream opportunity." He paused for effect, making sure everyone was listening. "You fix my Ferrari right here, right now, and if you actually get it running properly, I'll give it to you. The whole car. Yours to keep." The crowd gasped, then laughed. It was clearly a joke, a bit of cruel theater. The boy couldn't even reach the pedals, let alone own such a vehicle. But Robert was enjoying himself, playing to his audience. The boy named Marcus, though Robert hadn't bothered to ask, simply nodded. "Okay," he said softly. "I'll try my best." Robert waved his hand dismissively and returned to his guests, already launching into an anecdote about another amusing encounter with these people who don't know their place. The party resumed its rhythm around him. But 30 seconds later, the sound changed everything. The Ferrari's engine roared to life, smooth, powerful, without a hint of the rough idle it had before. The purr was perfect. Heads turned. Conversation stopped. The boy stepped back from the car, carefully lowering the hood until it clicked shut. Robert's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. He walked slowly back to the car, his mind racing. This wasn't possible. The mechanic he'd called had quoted him 3 hours of work, maybe more. "What did you do?" The question came out quieter than he'd intended. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag he pulled from his pocket. "The coolant hose had a small tear. It wasn't bad, but it was leaking just enough to cause problems. I had some heat-resistant tape in my kit. My dad always said it's good for emergencies. I sealed it temporarily and topped off your coolant from the spare bottle you had in the trunk. The engine was just running hot because of the leak. Once I fixed that and let it cool for a minute, it started right up." Robert stared at the boy. Around them, the terrace had gone completely quiet. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. "You're telling me you fixed a Ferrari with electrical tape and heat-resistant tape, sir. And your own coolant. I didn't add anything that wasn't already yours." Marcus looked at him directly. You said if I fixed it, it would be mine. I know you were joking, sir. That's okay. I just wanted to help because I saw it was in trouble, and I can't stand seeing something broken when I might be able to fix it. Something shifted in Robert's chest, an uncomfortable, unfamiliar feeling. Around him, his guests were no longer laughing. They were watching him, waiting to see what he would do. His colleague James, a man he'd known for 30 years, was looking at him with an expression that might have been disappointment. Who brought you here? Robert asked, stalling for time. My Aunt Clara works in the catering company you hired. She brings me sometimes when it's an evening event and I don't have anyone to stay with. Usually I just do homework in the kitchen, but tonight I heard your car and I thought. The boy trailed off. Robert became aware of a woman in a catering uniform standing at the edge of the crowd, her hand pressed to her mouth, eyes wide with worry. She looked like she might be sick with fear for her nephew, or for her job. The moment stretched out. Robert could feel it pulling at him, demanding something he wasn't sure he knew how to give. In his mind, he saw his own father, a machinist who'd worked in a factory for 40 years. He saw himself at Marcus's age, taking apart the family lawn mower and putting it back together just to understand how it worked. When had he forgotten that boy? A deal's a deal, someone called out from the crowd. Robert turned to see Margaret Holloway, the CEO of a non-profit foundation and one of the most respected women in their social circle. She wasn't smiling. You made a promise in front of witnesses, Robert. Other voices murmured agreement. The tide had turned, and Robert realized with sudden clarity that what he did next would define him in ways that went far beyond this single evening. He looked at Marcus again, really looked at him. He saw the careful way the boy had organized his small toolkit, the grease under his fingernails, the quiet dignity in his posture despite being surrounded by wealth that must have seemed impossible. He saw someone who solved problems instead of mocking them. Someone who helped because he could, not because of what he'd gain. Robert cleared his throat. You're right. A deal is a deal. He pulled the Ferrari keys from his pocket and held them out. The crowd erupted, some in gasps, others in scattered applause. Marcus didn't move to take them. Sir, the boy said slowly, I can't drive. I'm 12. And my aunt and I live in a one-bedroom apartment. We don't even have a parking space. For the first time that evening, Robert felt himself smile. A real smile, not the practiced business expression he'd perfected over decades. I understand that. But I made you a promise, and I'm going to keep it. How about this? I'll hold on to the car for you. We'll keep it maintained, insured, everything legal and proper. And in the meantime... He paused, an idea forming. In the meantime, you come work with me. Not here at parties. I mean really work. I own several properties that always need maintenance, small repairs, systems checks, things like that. I'll pay you fairly for your time, and you can save that money. When you're old enough to drive, the Ferrari is yours if you still want it. But I'm guessing by then, you might want to make a different choice. Maybe college tuition. Maybe starting your own business. Whatever makes sense for your life. Marcus's eyes went wide. His aunt had tears streaming down her face. But there's one condition, Robert added. You have to let me learn from you. You're going to teach me what your father taught you about engines and fixing things. About seeing what's broken and making it right. I think I've forgotten some important lessons along the way. The boy's hand was small in Robert's as they shook on it. The crowd broke into genuine applause this time, and Robert noticed that his eyes had grown unaccountably wet. Over the following months, Robert's life changed in ways he couldn't have predicted. Marcus came every Saturday morning, and they worked together on various properties. The boy had a gift not just for mechanics but for seeing solutions others missed. Robert found himself looking forward to those Saturdays more than any business meeting. He learned that Marcus's father had died in a construction accident 2 years earlier. His mother had passed when he was a baby. Aunt Clara was raising him alone on a caterer's salary, and she was doing a remarkable job. Robert helped her find a better apartment, and enrolled Marcus in a program for gifted students with a focus on engineering. But the real gift was what Marcus gave him in return, a reminder of the person Robert had once been, and could be again. The boy's genuine kindness, his inability to walk past a problem without trying to fix it, his respect for people regardless of their status. All of these things held up a mirror that Robert hadn't wanted to look into but desperately needed to see. 6 years passed. Marcus graduated high school with honors and a full scholarship to MIT for mechanical engineering. The night before he left for college, Robert invited him and Clara to dinner, not at the yacht club, but at a quiet Italian restaurant Robert's father had loved. "So," Robert said as they finished dessert, "have you decided what you want to do about the Ferrari?" Marcus smiled. He'd grown tall and confident, but his eyes still held that same gentle clarity. "I've been thinking about that a lot, actually. That car changed my life, but not because of what it was worth. It changed my life because of what happened after." He looked at Robert steadily. "I'd like you to sell it, and use the money to start a scholarship fund. For kids who are good at fixing things, building things, solving problems, but who might not have the resources to develop those gifts. We could call it the Second Chance Fund. What do you think?" Robert had to set down his wine glass because his hand was shaking. "I think your father would be very proud of you." "I know I am." Clara was crying again, but they were happy tears this time. "There's something I want you to have, though," Robert continued. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was the title to a newer, practical car, something reliable and safe for a college student. For getting to class and back. "It's not a Ferrari, but it's yours, free and clear." Marcus tried to protest, but Robert held up his hand. "You gave me something much more valuable than fixing a car that night. You reminded me what it means to be human. To help because you can, not because of what you'll get. That lesson was worth far more than any Ferrari. This is just, well, let's call it interest on a debt I owe you." That night, Robert drove home slowly, remembering. He thought about the man he'd been 6 years ago, so focused on accumulation and status that he'd forgotten what actually mattered. He thought about the boy who'd seen a problem and fixed it simply because it was the right thing to do. The yacht club was hosting another party as he passed, all glittering lights and beautiful people. Robert kept driving. He had an early morning tomorrow. He and Marcus were going to meet with the foundation board to present the scholarship fund proposal. There was work to do, real work that mattered. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Robert Ashford felt genuinely wealthy. The Ferrari had taught him an expensive lesson. The things we mock often hold the greatest wisdom, and the people we overlook are sometimes the ones who save us. Not from our circumstances, but from ourselves. He never forgot it again.